Over 500 regional airplanes are sitting parked right now, not because they are broken, but because there is nobody qualified to fly them. And America is short roughly 24,000 pilots this year alone. Commercial airline pilots are forced to retire at 65 under federal law. And right now the industry is hitting a demographic wall that has been visible for decades, but never really solved. A huge cohort of pilots who entered the profession during the hiring boom of the 1980s and 1990s is retiring all at once, with the wave peaking right around this year, creating the widest gap between exits and new entrants in modern aviation history. Roughly 4,300 pilots are aging out annually, and major U.S. airlines are trying to hire more than 7,600 new pilots in a single year just to keep up. All while the Bureau of Labor Statistics projects somewhere between 16,800 and 18,500 airline pilot job openings every year for the next decade. That is not a temporary blip caused by one bad hiring cycle. It is the direct, predictable consequence of a hiring boom that happened 40 years ago, finally reaching its expiration date all at once. After the 2009 Colgan Air crash near Buffalo that killed 50 people, the FAA created what is now called the 1,500-hour rule. Since 2013, no pilot can serve as a first officer on a scheduled airline flight without logging at least 1,500 hours of total flight time, being at least 23 years old, and holding a commercial certificate with an instrument rating. There are some reductions. An aviation bachelor's degree can bring that down to 1,000 hours, an associate's degree to 1,250, and military pilots can qualify with 750 hours of military flight time. But for most aspiring pilots, that 1,500-hour floor is the real bottleneck. Getting there typically means years spent as a flight instructor, a banner tow pilot, or flying cargo just to accumulate hours, often for modest pay, before an airline will even consider you. Becoming an airline pilot is not cheap. Flight training alone typically runs somewhere between $80,000 and $130,000, and depending on the school, the total cost with a university degree attached can top $200,000. That is before a single day of actual airline pay. First-year first officers at regional airlines typically earn somewhere between $50,000 and $80,000 a year, which means many new pilots are servicing flight school debt on a starting salary for years before their income catches up. It usually takes 2 to 5 years flying for a regional carrier before a pilot can move to a major airline, and reaching senior captain pay at a major, which can exceed $300,000 a year, typically takes 15 to 20 years of seniority. The payoff is real, but the runway to get there is long, expensive, and financially uncertain in the early years, which discourages exactly the kind of new entrants the industry needs most. Compare that to almost any other profession requiring a comparable upfront investment, and pilots are unusual in how long they have to wait before that investment actually pays off in take-home income, which is exactly the kind of math a talented 19-year-old weighing career options has to think hard about. This shortage is not an abstract statistic. It is already reshaping which towns in America have an airport with actual flights. The Regional Airline Association reports that staffing shortages have diminished or completely eliminated air service at 76% of U.S. airports that depend on regional carriers, and more than 500 regional aircraft are parked simply because there are not enough crews to fly them. Over 300 communities have lost scheduled airline service entirely in recent years, which means smaller cities are increasingly cut off from the national air network, forcing residents to drive hours to a bigger airport just to catch a flight that used to depart from their hometown. For a small business traveler or a family visiting relatives, that is not a distant policy issue. It is an extra 4 hours in the car and a missed connection that did not used to exist. Here is the part that surprises most people. Interest in becoming a pilot is not the problem. Flight schools have plenty of student applicants. The real constraint is a shortage of designated pilot examiners, the FAA-authorized people who administer the practical flight tests every new pilot needs to get certified, combined with a shortage of simulator time at training centers. Even a highly motivated, well-funded student can spend 18 months to 3 years just accumulating hours and waiting for testing slots to open up. And that bottleneck cannot be solved simply by recruiting more students, because there is no fast way to manufacture more examiners or more simulator bays overnight. Industry forecasts expect the shortage to stay above 17,000 pilots through the early 2030s, because the lag between someone deciding to become a pilot and that same person being ready to fly a jet for a major airline is structurally long, no matter how much hiring demand exists on the other end. Airlines can raise starting pay, offer signing bonuses, and lower some of their own internal hour minimums, but none of that touches the actual physical bottleneck sitting between a student pilot and a finished one. So next time a regional flight gets canceled or a small airport loses its only daily departure, it is very likely not a scheduling glitch. It is 24,000 empty cockpit seats that simply cannot be filled fast enough.